This is a problem from 2.7 online homework number 13. It said to solve algebraically. So in order to do this, we know we have a bunch of different fractions. So this fraction plus this fraction equals all of this fraction. So we know when we're adding or subtracting fractions, we need to get a common denominator. So that's what we have to do here. The problem, though, is I have, instead of just numbers, they're little different linear sections. So I have x plus 7 and x minus 2. So to get a common denominator when we're dealing with linear parts, that means we have to have all the same linear parts underneath the radical. And then this, well, this is not linear, this is quadratic. So I first have to figure out what that is as a linear representation, meaning I have to factor that out. So if I factor that out, I need something that multiplies up to negative 14 but adds up to positive 5. So it's x plus 7 and x minus 2, which actually helps us a lot because those are actually the exact same linear factors that we have over here on the other side. Okay, so this has an x plus 7 and an x minus 2. Perfect, those two linear. This only has one linear part of it, so I need to introduce the other one. I'm going to do that by multiplying this whole thing by x plus 7, this fraction, ooh, I forgot my plus sign, over x plus 7, because remember x plus 7 divided by x plus 7 is 1, so it's not going to change it. And then this one needs an x minus 2. So I'm going to times this whole thing by x minus 2 over x minus 2, because again, that's just 1. So then I'm going to simplify this. So I get 6x times x is 6x squared. Negative 2 times 6x is minus 12x. All over x minus 2, x plus 7. Plus 1, x plus 7 over x minus 2, x plus 7 equals 9, all of that stuff. So I just got a common denominator. Now, since every single one of ours has the same denominator, I can just ignore that for the time being. I will have to think about it later on, but for now I can just ignore it. So I'm just going to look at the top, the numerator. So I know I have, because our bottoms are already equal, so now I just need my tops to be equal. So 6x squared minus 12x plus 1x plus 7 equals 9. Okay? So I just literally looked at only the top because our bottoms are already equal. We got our bottoms be equal. So then I'm just going to go ahead and solve. So I'm going to combine like terms, and it's a quadratic, so this will be minus 11x. I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 9 over right away. 9 minus 7 is negative 2. So then you can solve this either using the quadratic formula or by factoring, or technically you could use synthetic division if you wanted to, using the rational root theorem. I'm going to try to factor it. So I need something that multiplies up to negative 12 but adds up to positive 11. So I'm going to rewrite that middle term with those two things. Well, I know negative 12 and a positive 1 do that. So I take negative 12 and positive 1 and use it to rewrite negative 11. Then I factor by grouping. Okay, so I can take out a 6x from this. When I do that, I'm left with an x minus 2. And then technically, I can just take out a positive 1. That's it. And I'm left with x minus 2. Now, here's one term. Here's my other term. And both terms have an x minus 2. So I can factor out the x minus 2. And then I'll be left with 6x plus 1 equals 0. So my answers are going to be x equals 2. And x equals, well, remember you have to set this equal to 0. So you'd minus 1 over, divide by 6, you get negative 1/6. So those are your two answers. But remember how we ignored our bottom. Anytime we ignore something completely, we leave room for extraneous solutions. So that means you'd have to go ahead and plug these back into your original and see if they work. So if I go ahead and try to plug in x is 2, well, what's going to happen is 2 minus 2 is 0, so I get 1 divided by 0. That's undefined. So actually, x equals 2 is what we call an extraneous solution. It's an answer we get that doesn't actually work because we ignored something completely. If I went to plug in negative 1/6, I have no problem with my domain here or here or here. So my answer actually only ends up being x is equal to negative 1/6. So anytime you're solving these, make sure you figure out if you have any extraneous. Happy studying!